Hey, welcome to the Moosonomicon. Today, we're diving deep into the world of Chrono Cross, the often misunderstood sequel to the legendary Chrono Trigger. While Chrono Cross has its merits, many fans, myself included, felt it fell short of its predecessor's greatness. But what if we could change that? What if we could go back in time, just like Chrono and the gang, and fix some of the game's biggest flaws? Today, we're exploring 5 essential changes that could have made Chrono Cross a truly awesome game, one worthy of standing shoulder to shoulder with the timeless masterpiece that is Chrono Trigger. Get ready to have your minds blown, because things are about to get theoretical. Chrono Cross boasts a massive roster of 45 playable characters. On paper, this sounds amazing. The sheer variety, the potential party combinations, it's enough to make any RPG fan drool. But here's the catch. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. While Chrono Trigger thrived on its tight-knit group of 7 distinct and memorable characters, Chrono Cross buckles under the weight of its own ambition.
With 45 characters to juggle, individual personalities become diluted, backstories get sidelined, and it's nearly impossible to form meaningful connections with any of them. Remember how Chrono Trigger made every character feel special? Frog's tragic past, Robo's quest for humanity, even Isla's prehistoric charm. They all resonated deeply because the game dedicated time and care to developing them. Now imagine trying to do that for 45 characters. It's a recipe for narrative disaster.
But the problems don't stop there. This massive roster also throws a wrench into the combat system. Chrono Trigger's iconic double and triple techs were strategic and visually stunning, showcasing the unique bonds between characters. With 45 characters in Chrono Cross, the potential combinations for team attacks become exponentially larger.
Think about it. Programming, animating, and balancing that many unique moves would be a logistical nightmare. It's no wonder Chrono Cross's combat, while innovative with its stamina system and element grid, lacks the strategic depth and visual flair of its predecessor. The sheer number of characters ends up limiting the combat system's potential, leaving players with a system that's complex for complexity's sake, rather than for meaningful gameplay.
Don't even get me started on trying to remember all those character-specific abilities and how they interact. It's enough to make your head spin. Ultimately, Chrono Cross's bloated cast becomes its Achilles' heel, sacrificing character depth and combat finesse for the sake of sheer quantity. A smaller, more focused cast would have allowed for more meaningful character development, tighter combat mechanics, and a more focused narrative. Sometimes less is truly more, and in Chrono Cross's case, it's a lesson learned the hard way. Let's talk about Lavos, the big bad of Chrono Trigger, the planet-eating, time-traveling, existential threat that loomed over the entire game. But what if I told you that Lavos might not be evil? Hear me out. In Chrono Trigger, Lavos is presented as a force of nature, a parasitic organism with a simple, primal directive: absorb, grow, reproduce. It's like a virus, a hurricane, or even a black hole, a natural phenomenon with devastating consequences, but not inherently malicious.
Think about it. Lavos doesn't exhibit any signs of conscious cruelty or a desire to inflict suffering. It's simply following its biological imperative. Even Queen Zeal, often seen as corrupted by Lavos, was already power-hungry and delusional before encountering the creature. Did Lavos influence her, perhaps? But was it intentional manipulation or simply a side effect of its presence?
Consider this. What if Lavos' arrival on Earth was simply a cosmic accident? A meteor carrying a dormant organism crashing into a prehistoric planet, setting in motion a chain of events that would shape history. Lavos didn't choose to become the antagonist. It simply existed, and its existence had unintended consequences.
This interpretation of Lavos as a neutral force of nature adds a fascinating layer of complexity to Chrono Trigger's narrative. It challenges the traditional good versus evil dichotomy and forces us to confront the idea that sometimes the most destructive forces are not driven by malice, but by simple, unthinking existence.
Chapter 3. No place for fairy tales. Why dragons don't belong in Chrono Cross.
One of the things that made Chrono Trigger so unique was its distinct lack of traditional fantasy tropes. Sure, it had magic, time travel, and talking frogs, but you know what it didn't have? Dragons. And that was a good thing.
Chrono Trigger set itself apart with its blend of science fiction and fantasy, creating a world that felt both familiar and refreshingly original. Introducing dragons into Chrono Cross, while seemingly a minor detail, throws off the delicate balance that made Chrono Trigger's world so captivating.
Dragons, with their overused imagery and predictable roles in fantasy stories, feel out of place in the world established by Chrono Trigger. They represent a step towards generic fantasy tropes, a departure from the unique identity that made Chrono Trigger so special.
Imagine Chrono Trigger with dragons. Imagine battling a fire-breathing behemoth instead of Lavos. It just wouldn't have the same impact, would it?
Dragons are fantastical, yes, but they lack the enigmatic allure and sheer otherworldly presence of Lavos. Chrono Cross, by incorporating dragons into its narrative, takes a step back from the innovative world-building that made Chrono Trigger so memorable.
It's a subtle change, but one that speaks to a larger issue, a deviation from the unique identity that made Chrono Trigger a timeless classic. Chapter 4. Untangling the Threads, Chrono Cross's missed opportunity for closure.
Chrono Cross, conceived initially as a side story titled Radical Dreamers, had the potential to be so much more. It was a chance to delve into the unanswered questions, the lingering mysteries, the what-ifs that lingered in the minds of Chrono Trigger fans.
But instead of providing closure, Chrono Cross throws us into a whirlwind of parallel dimensions, alternate timelines, and a convoluted narrative that raises more questions than it answers.
Don't get me wrong, ambiguity can be a powerful storytelling tool. But in Chrono Cross's case, it feels less like deliberate mystery and more like a missed opportunity. We're left with more loose ends, more head-scratching moments, and a sense of unfulfilled potential.
Yeah, imagine if Chrono Cross had focused on unraveling the mysteries surrounding Chrono Trigger's ending. What happened to Shala? What became of the Time Devourer? These are questions that have haunted fans for years, and Chrono Cross, instead of providing concrete answers, muddies the waters further.
A more satisfying approach would have been to use Chrono Cross as a vehicle for closure. Explore the ramifications of Chrono Trigger's events, tie up loose ends, and provide a sense of finality to the saga.
Instead, we're left with a game that feels more like a tangent than a true sequel, a missed opportunity to deepen the lore and satisfy our burning questions. Chapter 5. The Weight of Choice. Making multiple endings matter.
Chrono Cross boasts multiple endings, a feature that should, in theory, add replayability and depth to the experience. However, the execution leaves much to be desired. Many of the endings feel arbitrary, lacking a clear connection to the player's choices and actions throughout the game.
Imagine investing hours upon hours in Chrono Cross, forging bonds with your party members, making tough decisions that shape the fate of the world, only to be met with an ending that feels unearned or unsatisfying. It's like reaching the finish line of a marathon only to be told you ran in the wrong direction.
To truly elevate Chrono Cross, the multiple endings need to be more than just cosmetic differences. They need to reflect the weight of your choices, the consequences of your actions, and the relationships you've built throughout your journey.
Imagine an ending where the fate of Surge and Kid hinges on a crucial decision made early in the game, or an ending that changes dramatically depending on which characters you chose to recruit into your party.
This level of reactivity would make each playthrough feel truly unique, your choices echoing throughout the narrative to deliver a personalized and impactful conclusion.
By weaving the consequences of your choices into the very fabric of the narrative, Chrono Cross could transform from a game with multiple endings into a game where every ending feels earned, impactful, and deeply personal. And there you have it, folks. 5 essential fixes that could have propelled Chrono Cross from a flawed gem into a true masterpiece, one worthy of the Chrono legacy. Remember, this is all in good fun, a thought experiment to explore the endless possibilities of game design. Chrono Cross, despite its shortcomings, remains a fascinating and ambitious game, one that dared to experiment and push the boundaries of storytelling. It might not have reached the same heights as its predecessor, but it continues to spark debate and discussion among gamers even today. What do you think? Do you agree with these fixes? Would you have changed anything else? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more gaming theories and deep dives. Until next time, stay curious.